Jackie Chan loved his life. He was famous all over the world for his movies, his stunts, and his charm. But even someone as busy as Jackie needed a break sometimes. On this particular day, he decided to take a little time off. No cameras, no interviews, no fans asking for autographs. Just him and some peace. He put on a plain baseball cap and a pair of dark sunglasses to hide his face. Nobody would recognize him like this, or so he thought. He walked through the streets of Los Angeles, enjoying the fresh air and the feeling of being just another person in the crowd. People passed by without giving him a second glance, which was exactly what he wanted. Jackie had many businesses, but one of his favorites was a small jewelry store tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. It wasn't flashy or well-known. It didn't even have his name on the sign, but it was special to him. The store sold beautiful pieces that were crafted with care, perfect for people who appreciated quality over fame. When Jackie arrived at the store, he paused for a moment outside. The glass windows sparkled in the sunlight, and the soft hum of activity inside could be heard from where he stood. He pushed open the door gently, making sure not to draw attention to himself. A tiny bell above the door jingled softly, announcing his arrival. Inside, everything looked calm and orderly. 2 employees were chatting quietly near the counter, organizing papers and discussing something about the weekend. A few customers wandered around, admiring the displays. Everything seemed normal, but then Jackie noticed something unusual. In one corner of the store, there was a young woman sitting alone. Her back was slightly hunched and she held a tissue in her hand. She dabbed at her eyes every now and then, clearly trying to stop herself from crying. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders and she wore simple clothes, a sweater and jeans. There was nothing fancy about her appearance, but something about her caught Jackie's attention immediately. Her name was Emily Dawson. She sat at a display case filled with rings, staring blankly at the items inside. Every few seconds she would glance down at a small velvet box in her lap. It was empty. Jackie couldn't see her face clearly because she kept her head low, but he could tell she was upset. Her shoulders shook slightly, and the sound of her muffled sobs reached his ears despite the quietness of the room. Jackie froze. He hadn't expected to walk into such an emotional scene. For a moment he considered turning around and leaving. After all, he didn't want to intrude on someone's private moment. But curiosity got the better of him. Who was this woman? Why was she so sad? And why was she here in his store? Slowly he moved closer, pretending to browse through the shelves of watches and bracelets nearby. From this angle he could hear bits and pieces of what she was saying under her breath. "I can't believe it," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "It's gone. Completely gone." She paused, taking a shaky breath before continuing. "What am I going to do now?" Her tone was heavy with despair, as if she had lost something irreplaceable. Jackie felt a lump form in his throat. He knew that feeling, the kind of loss that made your chest tighten and your mind race. Whatever this woman had lost, it clearly meant a lot to her. The 2 employees near the counter must have noticed her too, because one of them started walking toward her. His name was Richard, and he was the manager of the store. Richard was older, with graying hair and a warm smile that usually put customers at ease. Today, though, his expression was serious as he approached Emily. "Is there anything I can help you with, miss?" he asked gently, his voice soft and comforting. Emily shook her head, clutching the velvet box tighter. "No, I don't think so," she replied, her voice trembling. "It's just my grandmother's ring. It's missing." She hesitated, swallowing hard before adding, "It was her wedding band. She gave it to me before she passed away. I promised I'd keep it safe." Jackie's heart sank. He understood the weight of sentimental objects. Over the years, he had collected countless mementos from his own life. Photos, letters, trinkets that reminded him of important moments. Each one carried a story, a memory, a piece of his past. To lose something like that would be devastating. He watched silently as Emily struggled to compose herself, her tears falling faster now. Richard knelt beside her, offering words of comfort, but it was clear that nothing he said could fix the pain she felt. While this unfolded, Jackie's sharp eyes scanned the rest of the store. Something didn't feel right. One of the other employees, a younger man named Jake, seemed unusually restless. He stood near the counter, shuffling papers and avoiding eye contact with anyone. Occasionally, he glanced nervously at a locked cabinet behind him. At first, Jackie dismissed it as nothing more than nerves. Maybe Jake was new to the job and still getting used to working in a high-end store. But the longer Jackie observed him, the more suspicious he became. Jake's behavior stood out against the otherwise peaceful atmosphere of the store. Everyone else focused on helping Emily or attending to their tasks, but Jake seemed distracted. His hands twitched as he fiddled with a set of keys hanging from his belt loop. When Richard mentioned checking the inventory logs, Jake quickly interrupted, suggesting they wait until later. "We already went through everything yesterday," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm sure it'll turn up eventually." Jackie frowned beneath his sunglasses. Something about Jake's reaction felt off. As much as he wanted to trust the young man, his instincts told him otherwise. Decades of performing dangerous stunts and solving problems both on-screen and off had sharpened his ability to spot dishonesty. He decided to stay a little longer, keeping a close eye on Jake while pretending to admire a necklace displayed nearby. Meanwhile, Emily continued to cry softly, her sadness filling the room like a heavy cloud. Jackie couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do something. This wasn't just any customer, this was someone who had lost something precious, not just in value, but in meaning. He wondered if there was a way to help her, to ease her pain, even slightly. Little did he know, this chance encounter would lead to far more than he anticipated. Jackie stayed where he was, still pretending to look at the jewelry. He didn't want to draw attention to himself, but his mind raced with questions. What exactly had happened to Emily's ring? Had it been misplaced, stolen, or simply forgotten somewhere? And why did Jake seem so uneasy? Jackie knew better than to jump to conclusions, but something about the situation felt wrong. Emily wiped her eyes again and tried to explain more to Richard, who listened patiently. "I brought the ring here last week," she said, her voice cracking. "It needed cleaning because it hadn't been touched in years. I trusted you guys. I thought it would be safe." Her words carried a mix of frustration and sadness, like she was blaming herself for trusting the wrong people. Jackie could see how much this ring meant to her. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a connection to her grandmother, a symbol of love and memories that couldn't be replaced. Richard nodded sympathetically. "Miss Dawson, we'll do everything we can to find it," he assured her. "Let me check our records and see if there's any note about the ring." He turned to Jake and asked him to pull up the inventory logs on the computer. Jake hesitated for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. As he typed on the keyboard, his movements were stiff, almost robotic. Jackie noticed that his hands trembled slightly, and he kept glancing over his shoulder as if he expected someone to catch him doing something wrong. While Jake worked, another employee stepped forward. Her name was Lisa, and she was younger than Richard but had a kind and approachable demeanor. She leaned toward Emily and said gently, "Did your grandmother have a favorite saying or memory tied to the ring? Sometimes sharing stories helps us remember things we might have overlooked." Emily sniffled and gave a small, sad smile. "She always used to tell me how much my grandfather loved her when they were young. He didn't have much money back then, so he saved up for months to buy her that ring. She said it wasn't perfect, but it was all he could afford, and that made it special." Tears welled up in her eyes again as she added, "When she gave it to me, she said it was a reminder that love doesn't have to be flashy or expensive to be real. That's why losing it feels like I'm letting her down." Jackie's chest tightened. He had heard similar stories before, about objects holding far more value than their material worth. But hearing Emily speak so openly about her grandmother tugged at his heartstrings. He wanted to step in and help, but he reminded himself that he was supposed to be invisible right now. Still, he couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that Jake might know more than he was letting on. Jake finally spoke up after scrolling through the computer screen. Yeah, I found the entry for the ring," he said quickly, avoiding eye contact with anyone. "It says here that the cleaning process was completed 2 days ago. and it was placed back in storage. His tone was rushed, almost rehearsed as though he'd memorized the lines beforehand. But I don't see any record of it being picked up yet. Lisa frowned. That doesn't make sense. If it wasn't picked up, where is it now? She looked at Richard for guidance, but even he seemed unsure. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner overhead. Jackie took a deep breath and decided it was time to act. He couldn't stand by and watch while Emily suffered like this. Slowly, he walked over to the counter, keeping his head low to avoid being recognized. When he reached Jake, he cleared his throat and said casually, "Hey buddy, mind showing me what's inside that locked cabinet over there? I'm interested in seeing some of the vintage pieces." Jake froze, his face turning pale. For a split second he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then he forced a nervous laugh and stammered, Sure. Let me grab the key reel. Quick." He fumbled with the keys on his belt loop, dropping them twice before finally managing to pick the right one. Jackie watched closely, noting every twitch and hesitation. Something was definitely off. As Jake unlocked the cabinet, Lisa suddenly spoke up. "Wait a minute," she said, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "Didn't we find something strange in the cleaning bin yesterday? Like an old ring or something?" Jake's reaction was immediate. His eyes widened and he nearly dropped the key in his hand. No, I don't think so," he stuttered, shaking his head too fast. "If there was anything unusual, I would have reported it already." Lisa tilted her head, looking confused. "Are you sure? Because I remember seeing something shiny in there when I was tidying up. Maybe we should double-check just in case." Jackie saw his opportunity. Without revealing who he really was, he chimed in smoothly. "That's a great idea," he said, giving Lisa a reassuring nod. "Better safe than sorry, right? After all, these kinds of mistakes happen sometimes. No harm in taking a second look." Richard agreed, sensing that Jackie's calm demeanor might help ease the tension. "All right, let's check the cleaning area again," he said firmly, casting a glance at Jake that bordered on suspicion. Just to be thorough, Jake swallowed hard, clearly uncomfortable. He followed the group reluctantly as they headed toward the back of the store, where the cleaning supplies and bins were kept. Jackie trailed behind, observing everything silently. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone, especially Jake, whose nervous energy was practically radiating off him. When they reached the cleaning station, Lisa began rummaging through the bins carefully. She moved methodically, checking each container one by one. After a few tense minutes, she paused and held up something between her fingers. It was small, gold, and unmistakably a ring. "Is this it?" she asked, turning to Emily with hopeful eyes. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Yes!" she exclaimed, tears streaming down her face once again, but this time, they were tears of relief. "That's it. That's my grandmother's ring." She rushed forward and took the ring from Lisa, cradling it in her palm like it was the most precious thing in the world. The room erupted into quiet murmurs of relief and congratulations. Everyone except Jake, who stood frozen in place, his face flushed with guilt. Jackie stepped closer, his expression firm but not unkind. "Mistakes happen," he said, addressing Jake directly. "But honesty is the only way to fix them. Next time, don't panic. Just admit what happened and work together to solve the problem." Jake nodded slowly, unable to meet Jackie's gaze. "You're right," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I messed up, and I'm sorry." Jackie patted him lightly, on the shoulder. "We all make mistakes," he replied. "What matters is how we handle them." With the crisis resolved, Emily thanked everyone profusely, hugging the ring tightly to her chest. She left the store smiling, her earlier despair replaced by gratitude. Jackie watched her go, feeling a sense of satisfaction wash over him. Even though he hadn't revealed his true identity yet, he knew he had done the right thing. As the employees returned to their tasks, Jackie lingered for a moment longer. He glanced around the store, taking in the quiet hum of activity and the subtle sparkle of the jewelry displays. This place may not have been glamorous or famous, but it had its own kind of magic, a place where people came to celebrate love, remember loved ones, and create new memories. And for Jackie, being part of that, even in such a small way, was worth more than any applause or accolade. He slipped out of the store unnoticed, blending back into the crowd outside. As he walked away, he smiled to himself, knowing that sometimes the simplest acts of kindness could leave the biggest impact. Jackie stepped out of the jewelry store and paused for a moment on the sidewalk. The sun was still shining brightly, casting long shadows across the street. He took off his sunglasses and tucked them into his pocket, letting the cool breeze brush against his face. Despite the quiet chaos he had just witnessed inside the store, he felt a strange sense of calm. Helping Emily find her grandmother's ring had reminded him of something important. Life wasn't about the big, flashy moments. It was about the small, meaningful ones. Still, Jackie couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Jake's behavior than met the eye. Sure, the young man had made a mistake, but his reaction had been extreme, almost as if he were hiding something bigger. Jackie decided to stick around for a little while longer, just to be sure everything was truly resolved. He walked around the block, blending into the crowd, before circling back to the storefront. From a distance, he watched through the window as the employees went about their day. Inside, Jake looked visibly shaken. He sat at the counter, staring blankly at the computer screen in front of him. His hands rested on the keyboard, but he wasn't typing. Instead, he seemed lost in thought, occasionally glancing toward the locked cabinet where the ring had been found. Lisa and Richard were busy tidying up the displays, chatting lightly about how lucky they were that the situation had turned out okay. But Jake remained silent, his shoulders slumped as though carrying an invisible weight. Jackie frowned slightly. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but experience had taught him to trust his instincts. Something wasn't adding up. If Jake had simply misplaced the ring, why did he seem so guilty? Why had he lied about finding it earlier? Jackie knew people made mistakes all the time, but lying about them usually meant there was more going on, beneath the surface. After a few minutes of observation, Jackie decided to return to the store. This time he entered without hesitation, pushing open the door with confidence. The bell above the entrance jingled softly, drawing everyone's attention. Richard greeted him warmly, assuming he was just another customer. "Welcome back, sir. Is there anything else we can help you with today?" Jackie smiled politely and shook his head. "No, I'm good for now," he replied, keeping his voice casual. "But I wanted to ask a quick question." He glanced at Jake, who immediately tensed up. "Earlier, when we were looking for the ring, I noticed some confusion about the inventory logs. Do you mind explaining how that system works?" Richard blinked, surprised by the request but happy to oblige. "Of course," he said, gesturing for Jackie to follow him to the counter. "It's pretty straightforward. Whenever a piece comes in for cleaning or repair, we log it into the system. Once the work is done, we mark it as complete and either return it to the customer or store it securely until pickup." "That makes sense," Jackie said, nodding thoughtfully. He turned to Jake, who was now fidgeting nervously. "And what about yesterday? Did anyone check the logs then?" Jake hesitated, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Finally, he stammered, Yeah. I mean, no. Not really. I mean, I thought I did, but maybe I missed something." Lisa crossed her arms, studying Jake carefully. "Wait a second," she said slowly. "You told me you already reviewed everything yesterday. Are you saying you forgot?" Jake's face turned red, and he looked down at his shoes. I don't know," he mumbled. "I guess I might have overlooked it." Jackie raised an eyebrow. "Overlooked it?" he repeated, his tone calm but firm. "Or avoided it?" The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Jake, waiting for him to explain himself. Even Richard, who had always been patient with his employees, looked concerned. "Jake," he said gently, "if there's something you need to tell us, now's the time to do it." For a long moment, Jake didn't say anything, He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Then finally, he sighed and slumped forward, resting his elbows on the counter. "Okay, fine," he admitted. "I messed up. Big time." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked, her voice soft but probing. Jake swallowed hard. "When I was cleaning the bins yesterday, I found the ring. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured it was just another piece waiting to be logged. But then I realized whose it was. Remember that woman who came in last week? The one who kept talking about how sentimental the ring was? Well, I panicked. I thought if I reported it, I'd get in trouble for losing it in the first place, so I hid it." "You hid it?" Richard repeated, his voice rising slightly. "Where?" "In the cabinet," Jake confessed, pointing toward the locked display behind him. "I figured I'd figure out what to do later, but then she showed up today and everything got worse. I didn't know how to fix it without getting caught." The room was quiet again, the weight of Jake's admission hanging heavy in the air. Lisa shook her head in disbelief while Richard pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly frustrated. Jackie, however, remained calm. He leaned against the counter and looked directly at Jake. "Why didn't you just come clean sooner?" he asked. "Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is owning up to them." Jake shrugged, his expression a mix of shame and regret. "I was scared," he admitted quietly. "This is my first real job, and I didn't want to mess it up. I thought if anyone found out, I'd get fired." Jackie nodded, understanding the fear that came with being new to something. "I get it," he said, "but lying only makes things worse. Trust is hard to earn, but easy to lose. You've got to start rebuilding that trust now." Richard sighed, deeply, and placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "Listen, son, we're not perfect here. We all make mistakes sometimes, but honesty is non-negotiable. If you had told us right away, we could have handled this together. Instead, you let it spiral, out of control." "I'm sorry," Jake said sincerely, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do better, I promise." Richard exchanged a glance with Lisa, who gave a slight nod. "All right," Richard said finally. "We'll give you another chance, but you need to prove yourself moving forward. No more shortcuts, no more lies, got it?" "Yes, sir," Jake replied, looking genuinely remorseful. "Thank you." With the issue addressed, the tension in the room began to ease. Lisa offered Jake a reassuring smile, and even Richard softened his expression. Jackie stood back, observing the scene with quiet satisfaction. He had seen countless conflicts resolved over the years, both on-screen and off, and he knew that forgiveness was often the first step toward healing. Before leaving, Jackie decided to share one final piece of advice. "Mistakes are how we learn," he said, addressing the entire group. "But accountability is how we grow. Don't be afraid to own up to your errors. It shows strength, not weakness." The employees nodded, grateful for his words. As Jackie turned to leave, Richard called out after him. "Hey, wait a minute," he said, stepping forward. "Who exactly are you anyway? You seem to know a lot about handling tough situations." Jackie chuckled softly, pulling off his baseball cap to reveal his unmistakable face. "Just someone who believes in doing the right thing," he said with a wink. "Keep up the good work, folks." Their jaws dropped in shock as they realized they had been speaking to Jackie Chan all along. Before they could bombard him with questions, he slipped out the door, disappearing into the crowd once again. As he walked away, he couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the smallest gestures, a kind word, a helping hand, could leave the biggest impact. And for Jackie, that was what truly mattered. Jackie stepped out of the jewelry store for the second time that day, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside him. The situation with Emily and Jake had been resolved, but it left him thinking deeply about trust, responsibility, and how people handle mistakes. He adjusted his baseball cap and glanced back at the store one last time before walking away. Through the glass window, he could see the employees gathered near the counter, talking quietly among themselves. They looked relieved, though still a bit shaken by everything that had happened. As Jackie strolled down the street, he found himself replaying the events in his mind. Jake's confession had revealed more than just a simple error. It showed how fear could cloud judgment and lead to poor decisions. Jackie knew all too well what it was like to make mistakes under pressure. Over the years, he had faced countless challenges both on and off screen, from dangerous stunts gone wrong to missteps in business dealings. What separated success from failure, he believed, wasn't avoiding mistakes altogether, but learning how to face them head-on. He stopped briefly, at a small cafe on the corner, ordering a cup of tea to clear his thoughts. Sitting at an outdoor table, he watched the city buzz around him, people rushing to their destinations, cars honking in the distance, and the occasional laughter of children playing nearby. It reminded him of how life moved forward, no matter what obstacles stood in its way. Mistakes were part of that journey, and so was forgiveness. Back at the jewelry store, the atmosphere had shifted noticeably. After Jackie left, the employees spent some time discussing what had just occurred. Richard, the manager, took charge of the conversation, ensuring everyone understood the importance of accountability. "We're human," he said firmly yet kindly, "and humans make mistakes. But hiding those mistakes only makes things worse. From now on, I want us all to be open and honest with each other. No excuses, no lies." Lisa nodded in agreement, her usual cheerful demeanor returning. "I'm glad we figured this out," she said. "That poor woman, Emily, she was so upset. Finding her ring must have meant the world to her." Jake sat quietly, listening to their words. His guilt still lingered, but he also felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time since the incident, he realized he wasn't being judged harshly. Instead, his co-workers were offering him a chance to grow and improve. "I really am sorry," he murmured, looking up at Richard and Lisa. "I'll do better, I promise." "We believe you," Lisa replied with a warm smile. "Just don't let it happen again, okay?" Richard added, "And remember, if something goes wrong in the future, come to us immediately. We're a team, and we'll handle it together." The conversation helped ease the tension in the room, allowing everyone to move past the awkwardness of the morning. As they returned to their tasks, Jake made a silent vow to himself. He would work harder, stay more focused, and never hide behind lies again. He owed it not only to his co-workers but also to the customers who trusted them with their most precious belongings. Meanwhile, Emily Dawson had already left the store, clutching her grandmother's ring tightly in her hand. She walked briskly through the streets, her heart lighter than it had been in days. Losing the ring had felt like losing a piece of herself, and finding it again brought a flood of relief and joy. She couldn't stop smiling as she thought about the kind strangers who had helped her, especially the mysterious man in the baseball cap. There was something about him that stood out, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. His calm demeanor and wise advice had made a lasting impression on her. When Emily finally reached her apartment, she placed the ring carefully on her bedside table and sat down to reflect. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind, the stories she used to tell about love, sacrifice, and resilience. Holding on to the ring once again reminded Emily of those lessons and gave her strength during difficult times. She decided to write a short note to the jewelry store staff, thanking them for their kindness and dedication. Little did she know, her gratitude would mean the world to them. Back at the cafe, Jackie finished his tea and leaned back in his chair, enjoying the peaceful moment. A young couple passed by, holding hands and laughing softly. Their happiness reminded him of why he loved helping others. It created ripples of positivity that spread far beyond the initial act. He thought about Emily and how much the ring meant to her. He also thought about Jake, whose mistake had taught him a valuable lesson about honesty and integrity. After paying for his drink, Jackie stood up and began walking toward a nearby park. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. He loved moments like these when the world seemed to slow down just enough to appreciate its beauty. As he wandered through the park, he noticed a group of children practicing martial arts moves under the guidance of an older instructor. They stumbled and fell occasionally, but they always got back up, determined to try again. Watching them filled Jackie with pride, not because they reminded him of his own career, but because they embodied the spirit of perseverance. By the time night fell, Jackie had returned to his hotel room. He sat by the window gazing out at the city lights twinkling below. The day had been unexpectedly meaningful, and he felt grateful for the opportunity to make a difference, even in such a small way. Before going to bed, he jotted down a few notes in his journal, reflecting on the lessons he had learned. Today reminded me that everyone carries burdens we can't always see. Sometimes all it takes is a little compassion to lighten someone's load. Mistakes are inevitable, but growth comes from owning up to them. And kindness? Kindness has the power to change lives. The next morning, Jackie woke up early, ready to tackle whatever the day might bring. Though he hadn't planned on visiting the jewelry store, he felt a strange connection to it now. It wasn't just a business, it was a place where stories unfolded, where people came seeking comfort, closure, or celebration. He decided to check in with the staff later in the week, just to see how they were doing. As for Emily, she mailed her thank you note the following afternoon. When it arrived at the store, Richard read it aloud to the team. Her heartfelt words brought smiles to their faces and renewed their commitment to serving customers with care and integrity. Even Jake felt a sense of redemption, knowing that his actions, though flawed at first, had ultimately contributed to a happy ending. In the end, the day had transformed everyone involved. Emily regained a cherished piece of her past. Jake learned the value of honesty, and Jackie reaffirmed his belief in the power of kindness. Life, Jackie thought, was full of unexpected twists and turns, but sometimes those moments led to the most beautiful outcomes of all. The days that followed Jackie's visit to the jewelry store passed quietly, but the impact of his actions lingered like ripples in a pond. Emily Dawson spent her evenings holding her grandmother's ring, running her fingers over its smooth surface and tracing the tiny engravings inside. Each time she looked at it, she felt a renewed sense of gratitude, not just for finding the ring, but for the people who had helped her recover it. She often wondered about the man in the baseball cap, the one who had calmly guided everyone through the situation. There was something familiar about him, though she couldn't quite place it. His words echoed in her mind. Mistakes happen, but honesty is the only way to fix them. It was simple advice, yet it carried so much weight. At the jewelry store, life returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible after such an event. Jake worked harder than ever, determined to prove himself to his coworkers and earn back their trust. He double-checked every task, triple-checked the inventory logs, and made sure no detail slipped past him. Lisa teased him good-naturedly, calling him Mr. Perfectionist. But he didn't mind. The teasing was a sign that things were okay, between them, and that meant more to him than he could say. Richard, the manager, kept a close eye on Jake, but also gave him space to grow. He knew that everyone deserved a second chance, especially someone as young and inexperienced as Jake. Over lunch one afternoon, Richard shared a story from his own early days in retail. When I first started working in this business, I accidentally sold a customer the wrong item, he admitted with a chuckle. It wasn't until they came back angry that I realized my mistake. I was terrified, but my boss told me something I've never forgotten. Fixing your errors shows character. That stuck with me, and I hope it sticks with you too. Jake nodded, feeling a swell of respect for Richard. Thanks for giving me another shot, he said sincerely. I won't let you down. Meanwhile, Jackie Chan continued going about his life, balancing his work commitments with moments of quiet reflection. Though he hadn't intended to play a significant role in resolving the issue at the jewelry store, he found himself thinking about it often. Helping others came naturally to him. It always had. But this experience felt different. Maybe it was because he had stepped in without fanfare or recognition, blending into the background like any ordinary person. Or maybe it was because he saw pieces of himself in both Emily and Jake, the pain of loss, the fear of failure, and the desire to make things right. A few days later, Jackie decided to pay another visit to the store. This time, he didn't wear a disguise. As he approached the entrance, he noticed the same bell above the door jingled softly when he pushed it open. Inside, the employees were busy assisting customers, arranging displays, and chatting casually. When they spotted him, their eyes widened in surprise. Lisa dropped the tray of rings she was holding, and Jake nearly tripped over his own feet. Is that? Lisa started, pointing at him. It is, Jake exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. That guy from before, it's Jackie Chan. The entire store froze for a moment, unsure whether to believe what they were seeing. Jackie smiled warmly and waved. Hello, everyone, he said in his signature friendly tone. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Richard hurried forward, clearly flustered but delighted. Mr. Chan, what an honor. We had no idea it was you last time. Thank you so much for everything you did for us, and for Emily. Jackie shrugged modestly. I didn't do much, he replied. You all handled the situation beautifully. I just happened to be there. Lisa shook her head, still struggling to process the fact that she was standing in front of a global icon. But you gave us such great advice, she said. About honesty and fixing mistakes, it really meant a lot. Well, I'm glad it helped, Jackie said with a grin. He turned to Jake, who looked both nervous and grateful. How are you doing, Jake? Still keeping those inventory logs in check? Jake laughed nervously, scratching the back of his neck. Yes, sir. Trust me, I won't forget that lesson anytime soon. Jackie patted him lightly on the shoulder. Good. Remember, we all stumble sometimes. What matters is how we get back up. The visit quickly turned into a lively conversation as the employees peppered Jackie with questions about his career, his movies, and even his philosophy on life. He answered each one patiently, sharing stories and insights with the same warmth and humility that had drawn people to him for decades. By the time he left, the staff felt inspired and motivated, ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. Later that week, Emily received a reply from the jewelry store. It was a handwritten note from Richard, thanking her for her kind letter and letting her know that Jackie Chan himself had stopped by to check on the team. She read the message several times, her heart racing with excitement. Could it really be true? Had the mysterious man in the baseball cap been none other than Jackie Chan? Determined to find out, Emily decided to visit the store personally. When she arrived, she was greeted warmly by Lisa, who recognized her immediately. Emily, welcome back, Lisa said with a bright smile. We wanted to thank you for your note. It meant a lot to us. Emily blushed, feeling a bit embarrassed. I just wanted to express how grateful I am, she said. But there's something else I need to ask. Was that man the one who helped me? Is he really Jackie Chan? Lisa laughed and nodded. Yes, it's true. He came by earlier this week to see how we were doing. We were all shocked, but he's exactly as nice as you'd expect. Emily's jaw dropped. Wow, she whispered. I can't believe it. All this time I thought he was just, well, a regular customer. He does that sometimes, Lisa explained. He likes to help without drawing attention to himself. But honestly, meeting him was amazing for all of us. He reminded us how important it is to treat every customer with care and respect. As Emily listened, she felt a deep sense of admiration for Jackie. Not only had he helped her recover her grandmother's ring, but he had also taught her and the store employees valuable lessons about kindness, accountability, and resilience. She left the store that day with a lighter heart, knowing that she had been part of something truly special. In the weeks that followed, life moved forward for everyone involved. Emily began wearing her grandmother's ring again, cherishing the memories it represented. Jake continued to grow into his role at the store, earning praise from both his co-workers and customers. And Jackie, though thousands of miles away filming his next project, carried the memory of that day with him, a reminder that even the smallest acts of compassion could leave a lasting impact. One evening, as Jackie sat in his trailer reviewing scripts, he received a package in the mail. Inside was a framed photo of the jewelry store staff, along with a heartfelt letter signed by all of them. They thanked him for his kindness and shared how much his visit had inspired them. At the bottom of the page, Emily had added a short note. Thank you for helping me find my grandmother's ring, and for reminding me of the power of honesty and love. Jackie smiled as he read the letter, tucking it safely into his journal. He didn't need awards or accolades to feel fulfilled. Moments like these were enough. In a world full of noise and chaos, he believed that the simplest gestures, listening, understanding, and lending a hand, could create connections that lasted a lifetime. And so, the story of Jackie Chan secretly walking into his own jewelry store became more than just a tale of lost and found. It was a testament to the beauty of human connection, the importance of owning our mistakes, and the enduring power of kindness. For Jackie, Emily, Jake, and everyone else touched by that day, it was a reminder that even in the busiest corners of life there is always room for compassion, and that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can change us forever. Months passed, and life for Jackie Chan, Emily Dawson, Jake, and the rest of the jewelry store staff settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. The events at the store had left an indelible mark on each of them, shaping their perspectives in ways they hadn't anticipated. For Jackie, it reinforced his belief in the quiet power of kindness, how even small actions could create ripples that touched countless lives. For Emily, it was a reminder of the importance of family, memory, and resilience. And for Jake, it became a turning point in his life, a lesson in accountability, growth, and redemption. Jackie continued to travel the world, working on films, attending events, and meeting fans who adored him. But every now and then, he'd think about the little jewelry store tucked away in Los Angeles. He kept the framed photo sent by the staff on a shelf in his home office, where he could see it whenever he needed a boost of inspiration. It wasn't just a picture. It was a symbol of connection, a moment when strangers came together to solve a problem and support one another. One afternoon, while filming a scene for his latest movie, Jackie found himself reflecting on the experience during a break. He sat on a folding chair near the set, sipping water and watching the crew prepare for the next shot. A young intern approached him nervously, clutching a clipboard. "Mr. Chan?" she said hesitantly. "I know you're busy, but I wanted to ask, how do you stay so calm under pressure? You always seem to know what to do." Jackie chuckled, softly, setting down his bottle. "It's not about knowing everything," he replied. "Sometimes it's about trusting your instincts and remembering that we're all human. We make mistakes, but we also have the chance to fix them. That's what matters most." The intern nodded thoughtfully, scribbling notes as if trying to capture the wisdom in his words. Jackie smiled to himself, realizing once again how much influence simple truths could have. What seemed obvious to him might be life-changing for someone else. Meanwhile, back at the jewelry store, Jake had transformed in subtle yet significant ways. Gone was the nervous, unsure young man who had hidden the ring out of fear. In his place stood a confident employee who took pride in his work and earned the trust of his coworkers. Richard often praised him for his attention to detail, while Lisa teased him less frequently, acknowledging how far he'd come since that fateful day. Even customers noticed the change, complimenting Jake on his professionalism and friendly demeanor. But Jake knew he owed much of his growth to Jackie's advice, and to the second chance he'd been given. He started keeping a small notebook, where he jotted down reminders: be honest, own your mistakes, help others when you can. These phrases became his personal mantra, guiding him through challenges big and small. He even began volunteering at a local community center on weekends, teaching kids basic skills like organization and responsibility. Seeing their faces light up with pride reminded him of his own journey and motivated him to keep improving. Emily, too, carried the lessons of that day with her wherever she went. After recovering her grandmother's ring, she decided to honor her grandmother's legacy by embracing the values she had instilled in her: love, patience, and perseverance. She started writing short stories inspired by her grandmother's life, weaving tales of courage and hope that resonated deeply with readers. Her first story, titled The Ring, became a favorite among friends and family, and soon she began sharing it online, where it gained unexpected popularity. Through her writing, Emily discovered a new passion and purpose. She realized that storytelling allowed her to preserve memories, celebrate relationships, and inspire others. One evening, as she typed the final lines of a new piece, she paused to look at the ring resting on her desk. Its golden surface gleamed softly in the lamplight, a constant reminder of where she had been and how far she had come. As the seasons changed, Jackie made plans to visit Los Angeles again. This time, he wanted to surprise the jewelry store staff without any fuss or fanfare. When he arrived, he slipped quietly inside, smiling as the familiar bell above the door announced his presence. The employees recognized him immediately and greeted him with warm hugs and exclamations of delight. Jake in particular looked thrilled, shaking Jackie's hand vigorously and thanking him once more for his guidance. "You've done great," Jackie said, patting Jake on the shoulder. "Keep going, you're making a real difference here." Richard invited Jackie to join them for lunch, and the group spent hours swapping stories, laughing and sharing updates about their lives. Jackie listened intently, marveling at how much everyone had grown since his last visit. Emily, who had coincidentally stopped by to pick up a necklace she'd ordered, joined the gathering as well. When she saw Jackie, her eyes widened in disbelief. "It really is you," she exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. "Thank you for everything. I'll never forget what you did for me." Jackie waved off her gratitude with a humble smile. "I didn't do anything special," he insisted. "You're the one who kept believing even when things seemed impossible. That takes strength." The conversation turned to Emily's writing, and she shyly shared some of her stories with the group. Jackie listened with genuine interest, nodding along and offering encouraging comments. "You have a gift," he told her after she finished reading a passage aloud. "Keep sharing your voice with the world. It's needed now more than ever." By the end of the day, the bond between everyone felt stronger than ever. Though they came from different walks of life, they had formed a connection rooted in trust, empathy, and mutual respect. As Jackie prepared to leave, he shook hands with each person, promising to stay in touch. Before stepping out the door, he turned back and said, "Remember, kindness costs nothing, but it means everything." His words lingered long after he was gone, echoing in the hearts of those who heard them. For Emily, Jake, and the rest of the team, they served as a reminder of the impact one person could have, not through grand gestures, but through small, meaningful acts of compassion. In the months that followed, the jewelry store became known, not just for its beautiful pieces, but for the warmth and care its staff extended to every customer. People often remarked on the welcoming atmosphere, unaware of the story behind it. And though Jackie returned to his whirlwind schedule of filming, traveling, and inspiring others, he carried the memory of that little store, and the people within, it as a cherished part of his journey. Ultimately, the experience taught everyone involved that life's greatest treasures weren't diamonds or gold, but the connections we forge and the lessons we learn along the way. For Jackie, Emily, Jake, and the rest of the team, their paths may have crossed briefly, but the impact of that encounter would last a lifetime. It was proof that even in a bustling city full of strangers, moments of humanity could shine brightly, reminding us all of what truly matters.